that. Luke should be joining in a minute. He's notoriously, because his computer's held together by clamps.
My life is so.
Yeah, I guess that's another way to go about it.
believe me.
Okay. The horn is on.
Great.
I'm typing and talking.
That's my favorite thing to do.
He'll be like, "Why are you being impatient?" I'm like, I don't know, because it's time.
Well, I think an hour is perfect to talk about it, and that's what I have. So
Okay.
I'm so sorry that I donked it up, but I don't think I saw a movie anywhere, or I just assumed Alien because that's what we've only done since. So anyway.
When you said that, it's like, oh yeah, I can see where that probably came about.
Just Aliens, a lot of Twilight Zone, but we are fortunate in that this is not unfamiliar territory for me. So
yeah, I assume you probably already know this one. To be honest, I didn't end up watching it last night because of time and stuff, but we had tried to do it a couple months ago, so that's why I did my notes and stuff, and I as I notoriously, so I watched it with like the family last year, so I've seen it quite a bit recently.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I did watch it like at least 2 years ago. But it is one of those things like it. But I'm glad I got an hour under my belt. Hold on one second. I'm gonna fix my hair. Hold on a second.
Here's the man. Okay, looks like he's coming through the veil. Just the buff Kirby at the moment. He's got his avatar there at the moment.
Oh yeah. My friend Scott's son is all about Kirby right now.
We did our summer school, so one of our activities for the kids was feed the Kirby, where he had a giant cardboard thing with a Kirby and a big mouth cut in it. So
that is so cute and clever.
Toss plastic food into it.
That is so cute. Let's see here.
I don't know what's going on with his tech there. I got a Facebook message. What's going on with him? I'll type.
It's okay. I am. Oh shit! I am making most of our time.
Gain.
Hello, Pepper.
Maybe his clamps fell off. No, the computer's literally held together by clamps. He just wants to take a trip home and then worry about getting a new computer. Meanwhile, I got a new computer in my closet that I just don't use. So
why?
Because this one's like, it's jury rigged for everything I need to do.
I see that. Believe me, I know that I don't need, if I don't need to update things, I won't.
That's where I am. And I got music programs, music creation programs, that sort of stuff. And yeah. And up here we go.
Whoa.
Oh, they didn't put my shirt.
There was a reason my video was off.
Gotcha. Nice to see you again.
Hi.
Okay. Actually, you two were meeting. We had a different co-host on last time.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
this is Luke here.
Same white guy kind of look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all look the same.
Yeah.
White people.
Exactly. There's not much difference between me and any other white chick.
So
nice to meet you, Luke.
Hello, nice to meet you.
So this one runs a little differently. We'll do an intro. I'm going to plug in a summary like later.
Great,
to save time. We won't do it now. And then we just kind of riff it, and I'll kind of like nudge it when I feel like it, so I can edit later. But yeah, this one you can drop F-bombs on. It's fine. The only person who complains is my dad.
My mom would too.
So Luke, yeah, he thought Apollo 13 was too randy. I was like, well, hey, I didn't send that one to you. So he finally figured out how to listen to podcasts.
That's a dangerous thing when parents understand social media and the internet.
That's right. So why don't we just plunge on in? Luke, you got a year.
Great.
Or
Are
do
you
have a
recording?
year?
Because I heard it say stop. Oh, it is recording. Okay,
Oh,
great.
I had double buttoned it, so
Got
then
it.
I rebuttoned it. Oh, you're already ready for work.
Yeah,
Okay,
sensible grown up.
I went Hawaiian like a unsensible grown up. Pretend grown up.
That sounds like you. Are we talking 78 here? No.
I think it's 79. I can double check if you want. Although I guess you're probably doing that at the moment.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I turned off my Wi-Fi and left my sound on. You're right, 79.
Okay. That's
In
fine.
the year 1979,
Oh, there we go.
John Hurt lived up to his name.
We're like John Payne.
Yeah, I guess he's not doing the hurting.
No, he's not doing the hurting because it's like a short sentence. John Hurt. There's no object, period. So you should have an object though. We're English teachers. We know this. Do you need one? Yeah, you do. Okay. John hurt an alien. An alien hurt John.
John Hurts.
John Hurts. There we go. Okay. We just
John
got it slightly wrong.
Hurts.
Yeah, like he's electric. Hi, this is Matt here.
This is Luke.
This is a
And this
sci-fi.
is Jessica. No,
And that's Jessica. No, you can come in right there if you want. We'll
Great.
go for the Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Jessica's already introduced herself, but if you want to hear more about her, she's the co-host of Mission Log the Orville, and pertinent to today's film, Alien. She's involved with the female improv group Ripley. So there was no other name, was there?
There was no other name.
Yeah, yeah. And this movie's, I guess, the starting point for that. As far as where I first came into this one, growing up in the 80s, I saw Aliens first because that's the one where you needed to know the lines to quote at the elementary school playground, so you could start shouting game over at your friends and all of that
Got
stuff.
it. That was your timeline of like impactful culture media. Like you
Yeah.
needed to know that one.
Yeah, you needed to be able to at least kind of fake the knife game for the other boys at the school, right?
Is this one quotable as that one?
Not at all. That's why it took me a few extra years to see Alien. Also, I think by the late 80s, it was kind of understood that Alien is a little more like hardcore than Aliens as far
Right.
as what's the word I'm looking for? The slurp your brains out factor or burst your chest factor, I suppose I should say. So
That's exactly right. But so I don't think I've ever seen Aliens. I saw the one in the movie theater with Winona Ryder.
it's Resurrection.
Right, which I know is not anything anyone likes, but I have seen Alien, obviously, because our improv group is named after Ripley.
Mine is more like Matt. I grew up just watching the VHS collection of action movies my uncle had, so mostly Schwarzenegger, but occasionally Aliens got thrown in there.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. My dad had the same kind of taste. It was definitely Terminator or Eraser, and then Alien definitely had a rotation in there
So I'm
for sure.
sure he would have tried to get me to watch, like I watched Aliens, that was fine. And I'm sure he would have tried to get me to watch Alien once, but I probably found it pretty boring as a kid.
Why? What?
There's not much fighting in it. I'm not saying now, I'm saying when I'm like 4.
You're totally right. There's nothing to hold on to your interest at that age. Absolutely. Yeah. You're totally right.
Yeah.
So it would have been when I was in like junior high school, when I started buying up my own film collection. I would have watched the whole series and been like, oh, okay, Aliens are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really pin down the first time I've seen it, but I definitely tend to revisit it quite often. And I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, but I do chicken out on the egg scene every time and fast forward through.
That one, the effects will stand the test of time. That is a freaky friggin' egg, I'm telling you. And if that's what bodies look like in the human in our womb, I don't want it. I don't want to have a baby at all. I know they don't, but damn, it's gross. It's a lot. Also, John Hurt's an idiot. Let's just get it out there. I understand that they are not science people. They are thrust into a position of exploration of life that was not part of their job description. don't touch the egg.
It's more forgivable here than when you get to Prometheus and they are
Prometheus.
supposed to be scientists.
That's a really good point. So I do the mission log the Orville for Roddenberry's channel, and one of the episodes of the Orville this most recent season, literally someone says, "What are you doing? Don't touch that." like don't, have you never been on? And that guy ends up getting infected because he like touched. Oh no, someone stopped someone else from touching it. And then another guy who's like vice admiral goes, "Let me just touch the wall," and then becomes an alien. It's so, I know that you can't have dramatic storytelling without a couple dummies, but still.
But yeah, I'll definitely give him under, because the guy in Prometheus too, he's like terrified of everything in there. And then when he sees something actually terrifying, that's when he becomes interested. So kind of
Well, I
like
think
that.
that's pretty normal though. I haven't seen Prometheus, but sometimes when I'm at my most petrified is when I have to act the most. You know, that's when you're inspired the most. Well, like I have no other choice right now. I can understand that.
I guess I'll go ahead and give a quick run of the plot just to refresh folks. So here we go.
I know you're not really doing a plot summary, but give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure. I bet he's getting tea. That's the English thing to do.
A cuppa. He's getting a cuppa.
Probably 2.
A double. A dubba.
Doubler. I just stick, I make music, so it's just, yep, 2. Okay, I called it.
Wow.
Did I hear Kirby mentioned while I was on mute?
No. Oh, yes. My best friend's son is all Kirby. He's been playing the games.
My 2 coffees in 2 different Kirby mugs.
Stop it. That's so impressive. But I don't have that.
I think was a Christmas present from Matt.
Aw.
Yes, that's true. Yes. Gotta get the novelty mug every here and again. So I guess with the main, well, there's lots of actors to talk about in this movie. Sigourney Weaver obviously is the name that everyone thinks of, but even for her, like she doesn't do that much until probably about the halfway point.
Oh, she does so much more than that. That in the beginning of the film, I understand what you're saying, but she's the most logical person on the ship the entire time, well, from the get out.
I'm not talking about her, like her abilities. I'm just talking about how the film treats her as a lead character.
It does do a good job of, I mean, obviously now we all know, but if you go into the film not knowing, it doesn't say like, this is the one who lives from the start.
That's a really good point. Although she still is the moral compass of the whole ship to begin with. So it's only indicated in that sense, but it made me question, why is Tom Skerritt listed first? Because she's the lead, but it does throw the scent off of who the hero is. That's a really good point, Luke.
Just in Hollywood terms, I mean, Skerritt was already a known quantity, whereas a year before this is when Sigourney Weaver was in Woody Allen's Manhattan. And if you don't, you're like, what? She was in Manhattan. She's just in a shot in the end, like in the distance as his next date. She doesn't have a line or anything. So, previous to this, she didn't have that much going on. She was an extra in a Woody Allen movie, So.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
I don't remember if John Hurt's name is below or above hers, because he was already relatively well known by this.
It's going to be after hers, I think, so no matter what, though, even if she isn't relatively known, it is by how big the role is, right? Because it's interesting, because Parker is whoever that gentleman who played the role. It's as Parker. He's the only one that's as Parker. So that's interesting too.
Oh, hey, I'm about to blow your mind. Parker, the actor's name is Yaphet Kotto.
Yaphet.
That's right. So now you know where that name comes from on the Orville.
So cute. So cute. Now I know.
And of course, he's the chief engineer on the Nostradamus. So
amazing.
I just figured that out looking at the wiki list here. Yeah, but if the wiki list is correct, yes, Skerritt's first built, Sigourney Weaver second, and actually we get a Veronica Cartwright and Harry Dean Stanton before John Hurt. So maybe John Hurt wasn't the shit at this point. I don't know.
we have had a couple producers on the show talking about this and that, and like the mechanics of how someone gets their name in the credits is mad.
Meaning in terms of like contracts,
it's all contracts and
yeah.
negotiations, and like this guy gets to be introducing and this guy gets to be also starring. And
well, introducing is specifically for hasn't been in a film
but
before.
even then, like in like a film like Friday the 13th, most of them haven't been in a film, but Johnny Depp's agent managed to get the and introducing
right, that and that is a negotiation going you were
no, you don't get it. My guy's gonna be big. You got to say introducing him.
Exactly.
Just for the people screaming at their phones, you meant Nightmare on Elm Street.
What did I say?
Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I wouldn't have known because I don't watch that kind of junk. It scares me too much. I did finally get into like Chucky last year, and I can see the camp of it all. And fun and so sweetly, Matthew was like, I don't know, you said you don't like horror, but can you do Alien? I can do Alien, but because of the narrative aspect of it, right? It's just so good. It's still fucking freaky when he kicks over the thing when they're looking for the face hugger, and after it leaves John Hurt's face, that's like I get a good jump scare. But if you're talking about like gore, Freddy's putting nails into your face, I don't know. I don't want to watch it. It's not my thing. It's just not my thing at all.
Gore doesn't really. I'm mega desensitized to gore, and even jump scares, they'll get me in the moment, but they don't bother me too much. It's like
I can handle some
creepy horror that I don't like.
Like what would go under the list of creepy horror?
Like The Ring or The Grudge. You know,
ironically, the Japanese.
You can't really understand it. That kind of thing.
The Ring freaked me the fuck out for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, like the jump scare in here. I mean, as I said, I tend to skip it. But I will be and say, like, hey, if you're in for a jump scare, that's like the perfectly constructed jump scare, as opposed to, say, Event Horizon, which is annoying. I don't like, I definitely get pissed at the annoying jump scare because I'm going to jump. I'm a jumpy person. I was sitting here mixing music yesterday, and my wife was right behind me. I was like, ah!
I hate it. I hate it. My brother would hide in the closet down the hall that led to both of our bedrooms for an hour, waiting until I would walk down the hall just to get me, like to fucking scare me. And it's the worst. I would leave a part. I told one of my best friends, if you pull practical jokes on me that include that, I will never forgive you.
Me and my brother used to hide so that we could jump out and say, I'm Batman.
Oh, that's cute. Speaking of Friday the 13th, though, my uncles lived with us at one point when they moved out from New Jersey to Los Angeles. And the youngest uncle would always they would tell us the story on Halloween of a young kid named Michael. And my uncle would like leave the room quietly going dun 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 dun, dun, dun like, and then hide also and try to scare the fuck out of us after we left. Like it worked. It worked. I don't like it, but it worked.
I was just watching a few of the old Tim and Eric sketches where they have Spaghetti, the guy that hides behind the plant for like an hour so he can jump out. And people are like, what are you doing? I thought it was someone's kids back there.
Oh my God. I love Tim and Eric. I don't know that I've seen all of the Tim. I actually think Tim is my favorite. Anyway, we're digressing, which is fine because it's a podcast.
That's right. Veronica Cartwright as oh geez, what's her name? I guess she's kind of like the antithesis of Ripley, more or less. It's Lambert. Okay. So yeah, I every time I watch it, she kind of contrasts a little more, I guess. It's like,
well, she doesn't have to either, just because she's a woman. She doesn't have to be the contrast to Ripley either. Do you know what I mean? Because like, we don't need to compare her just because she's the other woman on the ship that she's Ripley's foil. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Not that. I guess I just like, since we're seeing such a strong character.
I think she's a lot closer to the female characters that usually star in a horror movie.
I guess that's what I'm saying. She's
emotional and scared. I wonder if that's what Ridley Scott was going for. But I can see your point. There's a whole crew of characters, and they both have their place among them. It's not like
just because she's the older woman, But now that being said, just to be fair too, to that same point, Ripley was originally written for a male, and they didn't rewrite the lines. So that if that woman was written, she wasn't written as a foil to Ripley in that sense. they just realized that it was a better choice to make the character female, which is actually why my improv group took it, because it's like, yeah, we can fucking play any role. Who gives a shit? You don't not believe Ripley as a competent, strong woman, or or leader, regardless of gender. But you're not wrong, Matthew, that she's Lambert is definitely emotional. She's griping, she's bitching, she doesn't want to fucking be there. I would be that character. I'd be like, oh, I don't want, come on. But also, if you recognize too, she's like, this place gives me the fucking creeps. Everyone's saying that, Parker's saying that, but she's like, we shouldn't be here. She's got a bad feeling, and her gut, her like woman's intuition is going off for sure.
And she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
I mean, we should make it clear the person who really screws up, even John Hurt, he's exploring, maybe a little too Genki, but yeah, he's not a scientist. He probably should have looked into that egg. The one that makes the truly horrible decision is our robot Ash, right? He's the one that is like, okay, because Ripley's like, hey, we can't bring him in. There's like, there's rules for a reason, which are quickly proven once Ash just opens the door.
Well, and he does make a mistake, but he doesn't make a mistake.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Exactly. And God, what a brilliant reveal of him being an android, because he's eating and has emotions and is scared easily. We don't know that he's got literally an override in his brain that's saying, no matter what, you have to. My question is, how much does he understand about the alien, the xenomorph, the alien? By the way, I think xenomorph just means unidentified species, unidentified alien species. How much does he know? Like when Ripley comes to question him about disobeying her order, does he know more about the alien than he's letting on? Is he aware that this is a parasite? Does he not give a shit that it's a parasite? I'm sure other people have done more research onto it than me just questioning that. But do you guys have a thought?
Watching the film, it feels like he doesn't know very much. But if you now watch the 2 prequels and 3 sequels and the comic book series and the crossovers, blah blah blah, it's probably implied that he knows a whole bunch of stuff.
Or like can extrapolate.
The impression I get from this film.
Well, I see that he's withholding information, and I don't mean he understands. We've seen this creature before. I think he's just scientifically understands. Like when he says the oxygen is giving him oxygen, and when we see like the liquids pouring down John Hurt's throat in a CAT scan or whatever, I think Ash knows
he's figured out something's going on. Yeah,
that he's being impregnated or something. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I kind of like just to back up Luke's idea. I feel like watching this movie, just on its own, yeah, he just knows there's something there probably. Whereas with the entire franchise, he at least knows about those weird aliens that don't quite look like aliens from Prometheus. So I don't remember what happened in the other prequels, because I don't even remember if there's 1 or 2 other prequels.
There's so much, right?
Yeah, I've lost track. Hey Luke, do you remember it was Prometheus and
I think there's just 1, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's all kind of muddled up, which is why this movie, again, I guess it's better than the RoboCop situation, where there's RoboCop and there's a whole lot of crap. Like Aliens is good. Alien 3 has its things. Even Resurrection, you were mentioning you'd seen, and that has some cool ideas and stuff. So Prometheus has the best design ever, even if the movie itself has a few flaws. But yeah,
it is definitely Alien is up here, and the best anything else gets is not quite there.
Although I guess you'll find people that will argue Aliens like pretty hard.
I mean, I would prefer to watch Aliens, but I do think Alien is the masterpiece.
Yeah, it's the masterpiece, totally.
Yeah, I actually watched this one more, for whatever reason. I guess I see. I like the atmospheric horror. That's maybe what you don't like. I'm more now. When she asked what didn't you like, I was sitting there thinking of 60s films like The Haunting and stuff, but
yeah, sure. Interesting. What was scary about The Haunting? What is The Haunting?
It's been so long since I've seen it, I can't sit here and give a proper plot description. There's a 60s version, which basically it's a very creepy, atmospheric haunted house sort of film.
Yes, didn't Captain Zeta Jones do one?
They
Or
remade it in the late
yeah.
90s, put a bunch of late 90s CG in it, that sort of thing, and
Yep.
didn't really stick the landing on the remake. But the 60s one's quite, Haunting a Hill House also has an older version that has a certain kind of creepiness.
Um yeah, now I really want to watch Aliens because I just haven't gone out of my way. But I think I like this movie so much because of how much time it takes just to tell the story, and the visuals are doing. Ridley Scott did number two, or did he not?
No, James Cameron did the second one.
That makes sense because Ridley Scott specifically with like letting the whole ship be its own character, like watching how the ship in the beginning has movement without them. I have a question though. Where was the fucking cat the whole time? Was it also in stasis? Was it also frozen? It had to have been,
Maybe
right?
maybe the reason they take the cat is because while they're in stasis, it's eating all the mice.
There you go.
I
That's a
was sitting
really
there,
good argument, Luke.
I was sitting there thinking it should be like Red Dwarf, and when they come out, they should have what's his name singing
Danny John
songs.
Jules, yeah.
Yeah, singing his hit UK hits, having
All the hits
evolved.
from the UK.
Um, let's see. We before we completely finish with the actors, what else do we got? We mentioned Yaphet. That was thing. Ian Holm, yeah,
Ugh.
and Harry Dean Stanton. We got to at least like mention that. Well,
I
Yeah,
mean,
I always like seeing him turn up and stuff.
you can
yeah, he's
mention
so
every
good.
actor in this film because there's not so many, right?
But I
That's true.
think more than the individual actors, I like just the overall vibe of they do just feel like working class guys at their job.
Oh yeah, space truckers, right? That was
Yeah.
the kind of the concept.
They don't like this isn't the Enterprise. These guys are not, space explorers. It's just my job happens to be on a spaceship.
Yep, totally. And then you get the motivation right away with the money. They're all really concerned with money. And that's why they stop griping about having to go explore, the unknown life form.
And the film doesn't like judge them for it. There's no character who's like, oh, don't you just believe in the science? You guys always asking for money. The film's just like, no, yeah, these are guys doing their job. They should get paid to do their work, which I think. Because me and Matt watched Dark Star, which is the student film Ridley Scott made about just guys living on a spaceship.
And John Carpenter.
Oh, that was John Carpenter?
But same. It was the same writer as
Okay, yeah.
Dan O'Bannon. He wrote and actually has a role in Dark Star, and then he wrote Alien.
Okay, I knew there was a connection because it does feel like a very similar vibe until the alien shows up.
Well, yeah, in Dark Star. It's a large beach ball with feet. So, so definitely, plus to the xenomorph in this one. The other one that we might have even mentioned it during Dark Star, but Alexandro Uralski was trying to make Dune in the
Alejandro?
70s. Yeah, thank you. I'm just like ripping apart the name.
Jodorowsky. I know. I think everyone has for years. So
Yeah. But he was yeah, he was trying to make it in the 70s, right? Which looked like it just like if you thought David Lynch's version of Dune was trippy, this was going to be like 10 times trippier because for people not familiar with him, he made stuff like El Topo and the Holy Mountain. This is people take LSD and go see midnight showings in these movies, that sort of thing. But a lot of the design, there was a lot of pre-production work, a lot of concepts made, maybe even a model or two. I don't remember, but yeah, a lot of the people working on that just basically ported over to Alien when the Dune project fell apart. So Giger, I think, was actually involved with the Dune, and O'Bannon was, and several other people as well.
that's interesting. I don't see any influence from that though, because if you're right to say that the Jodorowsky, all the concept art from that seems super trippy, and this seems really straightforward. Like this is what I would expect a truck to look like in space in 200 years from now, essentially. Like it's a little dirty. The masks are a little scratched up. Nothing's really perfect. It's kind of not working. Because like what I really admire about the Dune films, and I think the Jodorowsky ones or the Jodorowsky ones would have done this as well, is reimagine space in a new way since unlike anyone else had done since Star Wars came out. Star Wars was set like the tone for how people envision space, and everyone was kind of doing their own knockoff version. And then, Lynch was like, fuck it, I'll just make it everything yellow and orange. That's going to be totally different.
Color of sand.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the same crew, but by that point, they didn't have a guy telling them that you will be my spiritual warriors. They just had Ridley Scott, like, let's make a movie.
The one thing, the pilot they find at the start of Alien, that could have been the pilots from Dune, because they're meant to be kind of alien and impossible to understand.
It totally, because it had like a snout,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it was all like plugged into a device and whatever.
Yeah, oh gosh, the Freightliner dudes. I know exactly, that filled space.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking. That's pretty cool. That's a really nice connection there.
I would have loved to have seen an H.R. Geiger designed sandworm.
Interesting.
Yeah, that might be a little disturbing, but sure.
Yeah,
I liked the new movies.
I really like the new movie, yeah.
But I don't love this sandworm idea. But I don't know how you could do it. I think they tried really hard to be different from David Lynch's, and I'm sad that we didn't have the internal dialogue, and the sandworm looked really fucking weird to me. It just did. But I get it, and I understand the concept of the worm and why they didn't do internal dialogue, but we were really missing that. We really missed it, I think. That's my opinion.
The funny thing me and Matt noted is almost everything in the film was trying so hard to be different to the Lynch one.
Yes.
Apart from the still suits, which look exactly the same.
Exactly the same. They look like Kanye outfits or something. Yeah, you're totally right. That was not, I don't know how you could reimagine it completely differently. Although, were they gray? Because I believe it's described as gray in the book.
Yeah, I think they were more like black in the new film. But
they're supposed to be anyway, whatever. You're totally right. I was trying to catch how many times they walked around without the caps on. It's kind of like, okay, Zendaya, why do you have a scarf on instead of your hat? You should definitely put the full still suit on.
It's hot out there.
Well, yeah, even just from your head heat is escaping and moisture. So like cover the whole flipping thing. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, but you don't hire Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet to not show their faces.
This is actually absolutely true. Still, I am disappointed.
Like, all the superheroes never keep their masks on anymore because they're paying those actors too much.
That's a really good point. Or they can just, multiverse them out anyway.
Yeah. The last couple of times I watched Alien, I definitely keyed in on just how perfect we were talking about the alien design and all that, and the glorpy or Dooney stuff, but the ship at the end to me is just like absolutely perfect production, where you got the klaxons blaring and the smoke coming out of the right places. And I'm going to give props to something that unfortunately no longer exists, but the thing that really got me to notice was the great movie ride at Disney World in Florida, because it was mostly like singing in the rain, and you'd go through, it was a dark ride, you'd slowly move through movie scenes, gangster sets, and one of them was the corridor of the Nostromo with the alien popping out of the wall.
Gross. I hate it. I hate.
Oh yeah, I hate it on the ride too. But again, the atmosphere, they recreated the atmosphere so well on that ride. Now when I see the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just like perfect,
Yeah.
So,
but they don't try too hard, right? He's not trying too hard to do outlandish designs. They definitely started from the ground up. They went, like any good science fiction extrapolates from what we have today and just builds on it. How would we naturally engineer from what we are starting with today? That is very much a 70s truck in space.
I 80% agree with you, but I am wondering why we have a wet room with lots of chains hanging down. I can't quite work out the purpose.
Good point.
I guess it's a cargo bay.
Also, were they meant to be like mining or something before they turned around and went this way?
They were returning to Earth post mining, right?
Yeah.
Or they were towing. I don't even know if they were mining. They were towing
Yeah, they're the
200
truckers.
million tons of something or other.
The space miners are still dealing with the Horta.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I had the impression they don't do the mining. They're simply the transport. I mean, just like in the real world, the miners don't move the coal or whatever.
Right. It seems that way.
It did, like, as a kid especially. It took me like years to figure out, like, it's a somewhat tiny ship tugging a giant rig. I mean, again, like a truck, but I don't know, for whatever, that's something that didn't really come across to me until like the 10th time I saw this movie. Maybe that's like a problem with my own intellect, but
Well, and
No.
that's actually like a really good bit of sci-fi, right? Because in space, you don't need a big ship to tug something
you
big.
wouldn't want one.
You
You gotta
just need a little
pressurize it.
prod.
I mean, we have what are our dinghies? They're little.
Yeah.
Dinghies are
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. Even in the sea, that works.
Right,
So
right.
it's going to be doubly true in space.
They have nice silent space in this movie, which I always appreciate when movies can pull that off, because
Oh yeah, because
you
no one
do
can hear
get.
you scream.
Right. Yeah, you definitely
Right.
can't do an alien. We just watched Armageddon, which has the giant space explosions, right? So which loud, the theater shakes with late 90s DTS, all of that. This one, of course, being a mostly quieter movie. That's another reason I like the segment at the end so much. Everything's been so quiet with the occasional, shocks, but now it's just, everything's blaring
Yeah, it's
all at
just
once.
blaring in your face.
It just breathes, like we're just watching her like walk the corridors, and it's just like perfect.
Yeah. I think that's what I was meaning, like watching how Ridley Scott lets the camera work and the set and the ship do the storytelling. How much of this movie is space jargon of like inertial dampeners and they're just basically, we see them doing their day to day for the most part, when they're landing the ship or it's been a hull breached or whatever. But then in the in between, they don't fill it all with dialogue. They let the action or the space do the work. Yeah, I agree. Quiet space is good too. Oh, that's what you're talking about. It's like actually space outside being quiet as
Yep.
opposed to explosions. Got it. Cool. Cool.
Yeah. You're right. We got plenty of noise inside the ship. We don't get it outside.
Which is good. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like her big escape at the end, you hear some rumble from the engine because she's in the shuttlecraft, and otherwise there's no whoosh or anything. You just see
Right.
the ship run out, and then you see it kind of blow up in the background. Did they have a noise for that? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, that's
I think
cool.
there's music at that point to sort of hide it. But
Yeah, I think that's the case. So again, a little,
Ah,
you can give them that for sure.
in space, no one can hear music. So
Unless you're playing in your shuttlecraft. She's just got it on, speakers in her, shuttlecraft probably. You got to play dramatic music for your escape. She's had it queued up for months, right?
she's like, oh, if ever this happens, this is my emergency playlist.
I do love that when we find out. I always refer to in the last Transformers movie the singing butler robot. That's one of my favorite things ever. Even though we do have to watch that again because they plug into Stonehenge or whatever. But I don't remember that being my favorite. Other than that.
So we need to talk about the real main character of this film, which is the alien.
The alien.
Okay.
What an incredible monster design. I completely rewrote the rules. I can't think of anything before this that looks remotely like that.
I'm sitting here racking my brain because and not Quatermass. What was Quatermass? We got the weird locust things. Creature in Black Lagoon is weirdly cute, I guess.
This genuinely looks alien.
Yeah. What they did so well was they said, okay, we have something that starts as an egg, then needs to gestate in a organic host, and then grows. I think what they did well is, what would something like that look like? And then we get this insane, and then how would another one punch this? You're totally right there's still something so freaky about it because it's not, even though it's so brand new, it's still feels like something we
you
all know and should
see-
be scared of.
You could see the little bits of human that it's taken from John Hurt, like the
Right.
ribs and just the structure of it. So it's like an alien corruption of a person.
And some of the alien in the seat that's been fossilized that they find,
Yeah.
it has a little bit of that too. Like I think the dome, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it's such a good point. I would challenge your listeners to find an alien up to this point that isn't Star Wars also, that is genuinely that different.
Well, this is a somewhat, I think, a somewhat rare case of a superstar production designer. And I mean, am I saying it right? What is it? Giger or Geiger is the product, right way to
I've
say
never
it.
actually been sure. I've always seen it written
If
down.
it's Geiger, that's Geiger.
Okay,
Okay,
Geiger, like a Geiger counter.
we'll go
Yeah.
with that today. And if it's the other, at least we gave it some lip service. But yeah, it was you saying you went to the museum, right?
No, that was
Who was that?
that was our guest Jake from the QAnon
Oh,
podcast.
oh, okay. He said he had gone to, because I just remember that being a trippy story. Because
Yeah, because he just stumbled across it on a trip to like Amsterdam.
yeah, because this is a case where just a freaky, like, you actually, the design of the alien stuff of this movie kind of brings you into like how weird this guy's mind was more than the normal production designer. Because let's take like the Star Trek guys, they build cool ships, but there's an aesthetic there, and this guy is just like his subconscious is like blah, coming all out onto the screen.
And it had a huge impact because suddenly like all the comic books and video games are full of basically this exact alien. Contrary to all these aliens, the X-Men start fighting the Brood all of a sudden. The whole Metroid series, one of my favorite game series, is massively inspired by Alien.
And how many
Down to
Space
having
Marine
a
games do
surprise
we have
female protagonist at the end.
now? Yeah, so many Space Marines at this point. I mean that's more the sequel, of course, but I think the idea still holds pretty well for that. But yeah, what are there any other production designers of movies that quite have this cash it? Because you might say, oh, that's a real Burtony, but now we're talking the director. He has someone else actually designing this stuff. Douglas Trumbull to a certain extent, but I guess he's more of a special effects
guy, right? Oh, maybe
Yeah.
Stan Winston.
Okay, definitely Stan Winston, sure. But yeah, somewhere just
But yeah, you say like Geiger-esque, and everyone has exactly the image.
it's like saying
That you're
Beatle-esque,
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the image that comes to your mind when someone says that? I actually don't get the alien. I get the cover to the Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, Brain Salad Surgery. Which
What I get is that room they find the pilot in.
Yeah,
The ribbed walls, the sort of the strange shapes, everything flowing into everything else in that way. The symbiosis or whatever. I definitely didn't pronounce that right. In that room. That's the image that Geiger gives me.
That's not too far off from the Brain Salad Surgery cover anyway. So
okay.
But yeah, definitely a real aesthetic there. I guess one thing that hasn't aged so well in this movie, and that the newer versions have had to deal with, is Mother, the computer, like no longer makes any sense whatsoever.
I don't think anyone saw how computers were going to evolve, and you can't blame them.
No, you can't blame them. Is
it you who pointed out the thing about screens? That no matter how good a sci-fi film made its future look, none of them saw flat screens coming.
It was all the green text.
Yeah. Or it was all big cubic
right.
TVs. No one ever saw like, oh, maybe these won't look like this in a few years.
I still think like everyone that's like doing see-through tablets or whatever, I don't think we're ever gonna get that.
It doesn't actually seem convenient.
Not at all. Not at all. I actually think we're gonna be closer to it's all gonna be in our eyes, and we're just gonna look an eye flick and tell it what to do, and we're never gonna communicate with each other.
Of course, if I remember, Luke, you're on the page where you do not want the Neuralink. You just want robot arms and like.
Yeah, I'll have robot everything, but I don't want anything in my brain.
So you'll have trouble with the iNet.
Well, I'll just get the contact version. I won't get it injected into my eyeballs.
Yeah, so you can be mind controlled by Elon Musk.
No, thank you. Don't care how many horses he buys me. I'm not touching that.
Now, my dad
Is he
was.
buying your horses?
Oh, did you not hear that one?
No,
He tried to get a flight attendant to touch him and told her he'd buy her a horse.
no.
Ouch. Okay. When was that?
No,
Just
that's
now?
so
Pretty recently.
upsetting.
Okay.
That's so upsetting.
Yeah, it's bad.
He
But
looks-
the bit that made it kind of funny is before the news broke, he put out some tweet that's like, "Oh, I think I've offended someone in Washington. You're going to hear some fake news about me soon." And like the very next day, this story broke.
That's right. You know what?
Nice try.
I believe him. Jesus, I'm obviously joking.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I guess trying to take the cringe factor out. I will say my dad was a computer programmer in the 80s. So in the center of this office was the, unnaturally cold room with the big tape, spinner things and a console. So I do see like that was basically like 80s corporate mother, right? So I do see why they did it this way in the movie. It does make sense, just that that
I do find those kind of old school sci-fi computers really charming though.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's all clicking
charming
and whirring, and you got to unplug this bit and plug in that bit, and like in Star Trek TOS when they've got the little tapes they have to unplug and plug in.
I love that. It's so analog in the best way. And my brain fills in the gaps like, oh, that stuff holds 1 million jillion gigabytes of information. Because if it's that big in the space, of course they have it like that or whatever. I find it charming too.
One book, one pad. If you want another book, you get another pad. But that's something Star Trek definitely found some issue with. Like, they're like, once we get to Enterprise, they do start putting the touch screens in, and Discovery, now it's all in the air. And it's like, maybe people do just want some jelly buttons. So,
well, the funny thing I find about seeing any computer in Star Trek is nothing is labeled, and everything is just colored squares and shapes. How long must it take to learn to use one of those computers?
A very long time.
Maybe that's deliberate. Maybe they don't want any odd pleb to be able to fly one of their starships.
That's a good point.
They make it obnoxiously complicated.
They do.
They put a bunch of dots on the panel, like the dots, the candy. That's a really good idea.
I mean, turn right is like, evasive plan delta, right? You have to memorize all that crap. You can't just say turn right. But I was going to say my daughter started doing kendo in April, and we're actually going to get the actual, like the helmet and the real gear like this weekend. So, because all she's been doing is learning the patterns and memorizing the patterns. So, no, I mean, you should still label your buttons on a starship for sure, but just maybe it's that kind of idea.
Maybe if you need the labels, you're not ready to fly a starship.
That's my point. Yeah, you should be able to do it blind, right? That's how in Star Trek 3 they could fly the Enterprise with 6 people. They brought labels along and
love that.
You just didn't get a shot of that. That's all. But yeah, the clickety clack computers. But I do remember, like Prometheus. Now we have all these like crazy, digital like VR displays. It's like, and it's before this. Wait, what's happening? You could just say that the Nostromo is like a really cheap ship.
Well, yeah, I mean that does kind of work because Prometheus has like the world's richest man on board the ship, and it's a science vessel and whatever. And this is, as we keep saying, just a truck.
Correct. Yeah, that's it. I think that's how you shift it. I think, or like that's how you frame it. Is that this is a different ship. It's probably 300 years old because they've been using the same method. What year does this take place in? I have no idea.
The future.
I don't think they say, which I like because
it's open ended in that way.
Films are not good at predicting.
That's a
how
good
many
point.
films have we watched now which were set in the future and we've gone past them?
That's a really good point. That's a real we don't have rocket packs. So I mean we do, but the whole world doesn't have them.
Wiki doesn't seem to know the year, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that they don't tell us.
I think that's right. But that makes sense though.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Would this movie be undone if it had been titled Space Truckers?
I don't think it would have had quite the cultural impact.
Space truckers.
Or even with just space truck.
In
Trucks in
space, no
trucks
one can
in
hear you truck.
space.
Oh, we got
Trucks in space.
yeah, we got space plates, space glasses. Why not a space truck? That'd be good. But Roger Corman, that should have been he forgot to make space truck after this. That's the problem. So we got Battle Beyond the Stars for Star Wars, right? So
Right.
we need some space truck.
Well, that is a good question. Because yeah, Star Wars, you can very clearly point to, Battlestar Galactica, Battle Beyond the Stars, the films that ripped it off. What's the film that tried to be Alien?
There's Alien 2. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is that like the Italian one or whatever?
Yeah, it takes place mostly in like a bowling alley or something.
Oh my God. For real?
Yeah, for real. It was made in like 1983, so it's before the actual sequel, and they tried to make their Italian grand, was it Gulal, or I don't remember else the word, but yeah, their Italian horror movie. So a
Nice.
very I think that's the sort of thing you definitely watch on YouTube. So or at least a video of people gawking at it, if not that. So it's got to have some presence.
We should do Alien 2 before we do Aliens, just to annoy all the aliens people.
Yeah, probably. It is Alien. It is the second one that was made. Aliens
Yep.
is the third.
Death of the Author and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, at least they didn't get the Fast and Furious naming conventions, right? Which have a whole different kind of bizarre in Japan.
Yeah,
because
Wild
they-
Speed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, they're
So
not even
that's-
called Fast and the Furious here. They're called Wild Speed.
So that's like Wild
Speed.
Wild Speed Ice Mission. You're like, what?
Wild Speed? That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
There's just naming things is quite a convention. Like if what was Cary Grant's real name? It was something ridiculous. Like
Oh, you
Archibald-
had to have an American sounding name or else you weren't gonna fly. Even they even told Renee Zellweger that you shouldn't use her name, and she's like, I'm gonna use my name.
Oh, but Cary Grant definitely needed to change his name, and I'm looking up his.
I'm so curious.
I thought I had that like on tap, but apparently I don't. So
You do, but your brain just isn't it's not in that mode right now.
Archibald Leach,
Oh no.
North by Northwest, starring Archibald Leach. Does that work?
Archibald, like I can't even say it.
We can shorten it to Archie if you want. Archie Leach.
Archie Leach.
Artie.
Wow.
Artie Leach. Yeah.
Archibald L.
Hey, there's another X-Men reference. I think that's what they named one of the characters in X Factor, like one of the super mutiny kids they brought around with them. I think was called Artie Leach.
Mutiny Kids.
Yeah. Is it like a big blue head or something?
Amazing.
But yeah, what you name thing is interesting, and it's kind of surprising there could not been another film called Alien by 1979. That's kind of weird to think about. I guess they felt like they needed to like qualify it more, like Alien from 5 million miles away, which is really close. When you
Okay, is this the birth of films having these like extremely vague one-word names?
Wow. That's a thought.
Because we were talking about that. We did that Tom Cruise film Oblivion, and it has kind of the feel of a 70s sci-fi. But if it was a 70s sci-fi, it would have a cooler name.
Yeah,
But yeah, everything is just called Word now.
I think the crime dramas might have had like a that might have been their field in the 70s. Clute, Scorpio. They had all the one-word titles.
I think you bring up a good point though, Luke, that like this movie sets the tone. Everyone kind of goes, you can do this. Although Space Odyssey I think this has it harkens to Space Odyssey in the actual time, like space and the length and, like the drama of it. But I think you're right. This kind of lends itself to a lot of people tilting their heads and going, you can do it like that? You can make movies like this?
I think part of the difference with Space Odyssey is like, look how amazing space is. Revel in it, the majesty of it. Whereas this film, part of its genius is that for the characters, it's day to day. It's boring for them. You're not meant to look at space and be like, wow. You're just like, oh yeah, we're in space. That's what we do.
Totally.
And it's only once they realize they're trapped in space with an alien
that it's a problem or it's something.
That void outside is a problem.
The AI kills you in both cases, though. The AI always kills you.
Right. No wonder. No, my friend shared with me the best thing that we're so self-important that we think that if we created AI that it would want to kill us, but it probably would do what it actually does in her, which is like, you guys are pretty boring, see ya, like as opposed to like turning on us. They probably wouldn't even bother.
This is one of those films where it barely even makes sense talking about how it holds up, but I will say Ridley Scott in general for me is a bit slow. Gladiator keeps moving, of course, but that's kind of the exception that proves the rule. Like you were saying, this movie for 4-year-olds way too boring. This one doesn't bore me so much. And I'm thinking it's weird because Blade Runner technically has more going on screen, but somehow that one feels slower to me.
Well, I mean, also, slower. Which one are you watching? Slow, the director's cut or,
I think because this film uses the quiet moments for tension. So every time you're not seeing the alien, it's still in the back of your mind that it's out there.
Yeah. I guess
so. I think.
Sense.
But yeah,
they let our brain do this. It is a psychological atmospheric thriller, like you said. They let our brain do the work for sure.
Right.
And maybe there's one or two shots where you see now it's like, okay, that's a man in a suit. But for the most part, I think visually the film holds up really well. Pacing wise, it doesn't
tall man in that suit, so
doesn't feel that different to a modern movie.
No.
As
a very much, you could still get away with most of this today. I mean, they probably pump it up in a few spots, but generally, yeah.
Aesthetically, any film that tried to create a down-to-earth version of sci-fi after this was basically doing this.
Yeah, I think that's right. I would agree.
Let's wrap it up a bit for today. Jessica, you definitely need to plug your improv because that ties in directly to this and anything else you got going on. And I guess this is going to start our creepy October, so that's your timing.
Great. Yeah. Well, people may or may not know I'm on Ripley Improv. I'm on a team named Ripley Improv after Ellen Ripley. You can find us online. If you type in Ripley Improv, I believe we're the only ones. We don't have much going on right now, but we will eventually. But if you want to just listen to my voice because you like it so much, you can listen to my new Podcast of the Rings. Speaking of which, weird names not taken already. It's kind of hard to believe that Podcast of the Rings wasn't taken. But me and Alex Mitchell, we go through, we're learning. He's very smart about Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth stuff. So he's teaching me about Second Age stuff before the Rings of Power comes out on, so this will still be in the middle of watching that series when this episode comes out.
Okay.
Which is exciting.
I keep forgetting that thing's happening.
It's happening whether you want it to or not.
Yep.
It's definitely happening.
I still have my Peter Jackson extended length box set sitting right over there that I still haven't watched.
Who doesn't love it though? Who doesn't love it?
Matt's never made it past Fellowship.
No, I got halfway into Two Towers and then I just got distracted. So anyway, right there, I'll watch it. I got to start over again. It's been a few years, but
watch it. We're waiting. We're waiting for you.
Luke, do the thing, I guess.
If you like this podcast, we're on Twitter at MLSFS Pod. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just search Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Make sure you rate and review, like and subscribe, tell all your friends, blah, blah, blah. If you want to help support the podcast, keep it online and find links to the other podcasts me and Matt make. Go to patreon.com/podcastio-podcastius.
Love it. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
On. All right. Well, let's go open up some eggs and see what's inside.
Oh, no, bad idea.
Okay. I will cut it there. Okay, yeah. As always, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I misunderstood, but we got there. We figured it out.
No, it was good.
No,
figured it out.
No, I my email wasn't quite specific enough, so I did make it clear that we were doing the movie Alien and not a Twilight Zone episode called Alien. So
we can get there. We got there together eventually.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I can see how that happened. So
I think